She got everything she needs right there in her hand. She won't give in to that fear. She's come to take a stand. At times she may not feel it, but trust this and believe. She's got all she needs. She's got everything she needs. It's right there in her hand, yeah, and she won't give in to that fear. She's come to take a stand. At times she may not feel it, but trust this and believe. She's got all she needs. She's got all she needs. Oh, she's got all she needs. She's got all she needs.
Good morning. Good morning. What a way to start the day. I'm noticing here as I walk up here to the front, I'd have to say this is the first time I've been a speaker on a Sunday morning in church. I grew up a Southern Baptist in Beaumont, Texas. And yes, I was a bit of the rebel in the group, and no one in their right mind would have asked me to speak on a Sunday morning. So my dad is happy now. He's getting to see me speak in church. Is our sound okay here, Charles? Are we doing okay? Feels like a little echo. And am I allowed to move a little bit, or does that mess up any recording? Okay, good. So, how many of you all are relaxed when you're asked to speak in front of a group? How many people? Okay, there's a few that feel really good. The majority don't really raise their hand. As y'all know from reading the little thing, I'm a medical doctor. I started out as a medic in the Air Force and went to pharmacy school here in Austin, went to medical school in San Antonio, became a board-certified anesthesiologist, and practiced in Fredericksburg for many years. And I gave up anesthesia in the 90s and started doing holistic medicine. And in the last 5 years, I've started doing the Germanic New Medicine and the takeoffs from that, which are really quite fascinating. And one of the things I've learned is that verse that talks about us being fearfully and wonderfully made. Y'all know that one? Yeah, that even makes it to Unity churches. We talked about that in the Baptist church. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so there's this part of us, this little part of our brain, that when we're in the womb and in the first year of our life, if you just think about yourself back in the womb and being nurtured by your parents as a little infant, if you can get a picture of that, if you've seen a picture of yourself recently during that period of time, how open and vulnerable we are. And this little part of us, this little part of our brain, it's always trying to solve survival issues, always. That's what it does. We're just fearfully and wonderfully put together that way. So this little part of our brain that's always trying to solve survival issues knows that for biology, if the family splits up, the baby dies. That's just how it works in biology. So this little creature in here, this little us, any stress between the parents that's too great for them to bear and still function goes into my nervous system. And throughout my life, I will try to find the answer for it. It's just biology, right? I'm just going to keep trying to find the answer for what Mommy and Daddy suffered with. Now, the good news is I see some people young enough to be parents of children. So when we discover what got downloaded into our children, we can go into their room while they're asleep and tell them, honey, this was my conflict. This was between you and your mom. We never intended for you to carry this or try to solve this. So you can leave this with us. We're working this out. And you're free, and you have our blessing to live your life. And children, when they're at puberty or younger, they reprogram very quickly. But any child at any age, you can use their picture and do that, even if you live far away. You can tell them, once you recognize the program that got downloaded into them, you can tell them it's not theirs. Okay? And that little part of the brain goes, oh, I can quit trying to solve that. So for me, the biggest stress between my parents during the time of pregnancy in the first year of life was that I died or nearly died at birth. My little Southern Baptist mom got a pain shot. I came out, I apparently was okay, and folks just set me aside and worked on Mom, and the narcotic made me stop breathing. And nobody noticed. So I'm like totally open to this, right? I'm here to take on whatever's going on. That's what I agreed to when I came in this body. I'm open to it all, even if it means turning blue and dying over here. I don't have a problem with it. My mom, on the other hand, when they notice that I'm over here blue, she absolutely freaks out. The doctors and the medical team run over there, and I have to be resuscitated twice. And while they're doing this, they're telling my mother, maybe we should stop trying. Because he was blue so long, he's probably seriously brain damaged. And do you want a seriously brain damaged child? So this was the biggest stressor for my parents during the pregnancy and the first year of life, was the moment of birth. Okay, my little brain doesn't have my own feelings then. I pick up what's too stressful for my mother. It goes into my programming, and I have to be the living answer for what was their greatest suffering during this period of time. That's what I will manifest in my biology, in my physical form, my decisions, any illnesses I have, my occupation. I became an anesthesiologist. I don't know why I did it. I didn't really like pharmacy school, which is about learning about pain medicines and what they do, among other things. I didn't like medical school. I thought it was pretty harsh, honestly. I didn't care for it. But I couldn't think of anything else to do with my life, and there was a drive to do it, and I didn't know where it came from. But an anesthesiologist is the person who notices the blue person in the room. That's our job, right? And we always carry stuff for blue people. Everywhere we go, we've got a little bag for blue people. And we have little antidotes for somebody that had too much pain medicine, either on purpose or by accident. And that's what we do for a living. It was only 5 years ago that I realized that I was trying to save my mommy and my daddy from the anxiety they had 30 and 40 years ago. And that's what I'm doing with my life. Every time a person does a general anesthetic, we give medicine to people that makes them stop breathing on purpose. And then we have to hook them up to a breathing machine. And every time I did that, I was terrified. I didn't know why. I didn't know why some people could be so calm about it. And yet every time I gave somebody that shot of pain medicine that was so great, it would knock them completely out. There was a part of me that I had to stuff down the fear over and over and over. And I just kept reenacting my own birth. Right? So, when a person speaks in public, it's like popping out of the womb into the world. What does the brain do? It replays our birth video whenever we speak in public. If you had a really peaceful birth, where everybody's there, it's a sacred moment, it's mom and her friends, right? It's not a big medical thing. The baby comes out and everybody says, welcome to this world. Why, then when I get an invitation to speak in public, I sleep well the night before because I know everything's going to work out. And I stand up here and I feel welcomed in this world. But if I'm a medical emergency, right? And that's what's replaying up here. See, the brain is trying to help me. It's trying to say, you've been asked to speak in public? That's nothing compared to this movement through this canal here where your head was squashed. And you came out and everybody said, great, you're doing great, right? That's what it's trying to replay to encourage us, because for biology, most people were born in the wild. Mom picked a sacred spot, maybe had someone with her, and they did the dance. They did the sacred dance. And then the person comes out and it's a sacred movement, right? And so there's this good feeling about taking a test in school. How many people were relaxed before big exams in school? I mean, the ones that really meant something to you. How many people just felt like piece of cake, you know? Because the brain is going to replay the birth video. This is the labor, this is the result, right? This is my studying, and this is the test. That's how that works. So the brain is trying to help me out and encourage me by remembering this natural, wonderful birth. So, if you're one of those folks who has, like me, who woke up last night for a couple of hours, and that is progress, because I learned this a while back. It used to be I wouldn't sleep for a week before giving a talk. I would just be up all night, every night, because I knew what was coming. I knew what was coming. This little thing was going to replay, and I didn't know what it was. That it was mommy and daddy's feelings, and that I could actually hand it back to them with respect. I could hand back that mistake to the medical team and say, I leave this with you. This doesn't belong with me. Please look friendly on me when I'm welcome in this world, rather than terrified about my first movement. How many of y'all, when you wake up in the morning, feel welcome in the world? That's the first dialogue. Yeah, some people do. Some people do. They just feel welcome, right? How many of us go, something's not quite right? The brain's replaying the birth video. Give that back to mom and dad. We can do that with respect. Everyone's doing the best we can at the time, right? So we can hand all that back and find compassion and rejoin ourselves with that first movement and the people involved in it, right? How many people, when we first go look in the mirror in the morning, we look in our eyes and have love and respect for ourselves? How many of us, that's our first look? We walk in the mirror, we look in the eyes. Some people do, just a few people do. The first look we get when we come out of the womb is how we will look at ourselves for the rest of our lives until we give that first look back to the people who looked at us first. If people looked at us first and did a medical evaluation of us, that's our first look in this world, we're going to walk in front of the mirror and give ourselves an up and down and see what's too much here or too little here, or, right? And we're going to redo that, not realizing that that's what somebody else did. And we're repeating it out of a loyalty to our origin story. Everyone is loyal to their origin story until we're not. Right? That stuff all belongs to a place and a group of people in the past. There's a way to leave that with them with respect, with an open heart, not trying to get rid of anything, but connecting. It's how we do unity consciousness one piece at a time in biology. Biology's slower than the spiritual stuff. We can sit in here and do it, feel unity consciousness in a moment of time on the spiritual level. Biology's a little slower, right? So we get one little piece of unity consciousness going, okay, that's really good. And that can mean a lot for us in biology, okay? So I like to start with that because I'm always terrified speaking in public, and it helps me to remember it's not my terror. It's my mother's terror watching me die and be resuscitated at birth, right? Okay, so the next, let's see, the next show and tell piece. I told Tony I would mention this, and I want to thank Tony for inviting me to be here, and Charles and everyone who was part of the decision for me to be here, every one of y'all, to speak about some of these things. This is Mark Wolin's book called It Didn't Start With You. This is about how we inherit things in our family. So if we go back in my family, what we find in the generations before the family, and this is like hard clinical science that we now actually have biological data for on DNA, okay? This is not made up stuff. Firstborns died in my family. So why does this little coincidence happen that doctors don't notice I'm not breathing? Firstborns die in my family. Stillbirths. Women dying in childbirth. That's what happens in my family. Nothing that's going on in my biology started with me. Nothing that's going on in your biology, no illness, no pain or anything, started with you. So one of the things I do, and that Ann Beaversdorf does, I wanted to put in a plug for Ann. If you've never participated in a family constellation, there's going to be one Sunday, September 3rd at 12:30. It is free to go to. A family constellation is where we redo the energies in the family. Isn't that amazing? Some energy that's been going on for generations can be shifted in about a half an hour to an hour. I've watched people miraculously heal from physical illnesses after a family constellation. The energy for that illness was carried in the family. Do you know the very nervous system that's in my body? It's called the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight nervous system. This is the one that makes our pupils get big and small when we go in and out of light. How many people had to stop at the door and have a talk with your brain to get your pupils to adjust to the lights in here? Right? Nobody. It happens automatically. That nervous system runs every single part of my body. And the word sympathetic literally means what befalls us together. The nervous system that's in my individual body does not belong to just me. It's even in the Word. It's shared with the last 3 generations of my family. The nervous system that operates my body is not mine. It's shared, right? So if I have diabetes in my body, the energy for diabetes is in the last 3 generations of my family. We all have diabetes. It's just my body that's manifesting it. I'm the one who manifests it. It's a family thing. And when people look at illness as a family thing, it shifts it all. So, since we brought up the thing about cancer this morning, and just this was the bag that I had that I put my show and tell stuff in, theBestAnswerForCancer.com. Annie Brandt actually lives here in Austin. She's a great resource. She runs theBestAnswerForCancer.com. So let me tell you about my friend Martha. Martha said I could actually use her real name. Martha has adenobreast cancer. She got diagnosed with that. Now, in my world, I was taught to be afraid of cancer. I was taught that. To be afraid of it. So if I were to hear the word cancer about my body, y'all would have to come over and lay hands on me. I'd probably just freak, okay? Right? Before I, got hold of some things. Martha comes in, adenobreast cancer. What is that? This is part of Germanic New Medicine. If we had time, I would actually show you the brain scans. What it means is there's something in a woman's life, typically about a child, that she cannot face. And so that stress gets stuffed down into the body so she can function. And in her, it showed up in the breast. Now, here's what we don't learn in medical school or pharmacy school or any of that. When a breast cancer first begins, it makes more nutritious breast milk than normal breast tissue. It makes super breast milk. How many of you knew that? That when a cancer first begins, it is a hyper-functioning, turbo, heroic system. It actually outperforms normal tissue. Okay? So what we discovered when we sat down and had a conversation with Martha is that something was happening with her son, and she felt like she could not nurture him through this. He was a grown man now. When we looked at her timelines, we found out that her biological brain was repeating the time when she was a 16-year-old mother who had a 17-year-old husband. They had no money. They had a baby. She was terrified that the baby wasn't getting nourished well enough because they couldn't afford good food. So I had told Martha, I said, this kind of breast cancer, you're just trying to super nutrition your child. That's all. You're just scared. And I said to her, it just popped out. I said, Martha, this is like having extra groceries. The next week when she came in, she goes, oh my God. She said, it all came back to me. She said, I can remember being so worried about my baby. And she lived up north where people wore lots of coats. She would actually shoplift groceries on the part of the breast where the cancer showed up to keep her baby alive. That's what was going on with her. Now her baby's a grown man, but he's in danger, and her brain remembers this, and it says, we can make some good enough breast milk to save him from this illness he has. Once she realized that it was about shoplifting the groceries, we cried and we laughed, and she's in remission today. Cancer is the brain's way to try to rescue us from a conflict. Our brain is giving us a heroic solution for something that's just too tough to face. And it's too tough to face psychologically, but when we have a conversation like with Martha, the heart can face it. The heart can face anything. If we can really get down and talk about what's going on, the heart will see a way through it. So the other woman that I have watched go through breast cancer had the other kind of breast cancer called intraductal breast cancer. That's the duct that carries the breast milk. So what's going on in her life after the divorce, her daughter won't speak to her. And now her daughter's having some difficulty. And she would love to reach out and help her and get her breast milk to reach her daughter. That's how the brain sees it, right? If I could just get my nutrition, whatever it is, money, encouraging words, whatever it is, but the brain can only see it in terms of this body. So it tries to eat away the inner lining of the breast duct so that it's bigger and it holds more milk to get it out there to my daughter. Then when we resolve that conflict, the brain calls in a cancer healing program to spend just a few weeks and repair this duct. That's when a woman feels the lump, when she's healing. Look at the difference. If I come in as a doctor in a white coat with a stethoscope and I go, oh my God, the biopsy was positive. You've got intraductal breast cancer. You're going to have to do this, this, and this, or you're going to die. Versus, oh my God, look how much you love your daughter. That your brain would create this to try to save her life. Tell me about that. And we watch someone talk from the heart about their child. And in a couple of weeks, it's gone. It just resolves by itself. It was already healing. We've just misunderstood it. Cancer is a hero that the brain sends to the body. Dr. Hammer documented this in over 40,000 patients doing CAT scans of their brains as they went in and out of cancer and showed clearly that the brain is producing the cancer on purpose to save me from something I cannot face. I don't have the support to face it. That's why we're here doing a Byron Katie class. That's why we're here doing what real love is. That's why we're here celebrating, so that we have support. If we're sitting out there by ourselves, we'll never see this. Not in this culture. We get together so we can encourage each other and say everything is about love. Anything that we think isn't about love, we are misunderstanding it. Can you help me not misunderstand it? Right? Yeah, I got an amen from Ed there. Yeah. And I don't know, my time may be up. I don't know. How are we doing, Charles? Yeah, Charles is going like that. So yeah, I guess that would be the thing that I would want to leave y'all with, is that many times when we think we're ill, we're actually healing. Don't sell yourself short. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Yeah, and I think I'll leave it with that for now, huh?
What a precious opportunity to be here, being in touch with that part that's so deep within, the source that's been here before these bodies and continues to be here always, forever. It's so precious to hear how this community is rallying around to support people who are in the fear, perhaps, of the experience of cancer. And about 30 years ago, I was in that place. I was diagnosed with colon cancer by a doctor who
pretty much said things just the way Richard did in the beginning, that first demonstration. And there was something in me that knew that a doctor couldn't tell me when it was my time to go, and that a doctor's particular way of looking at things was the only way there was. There is an amazing man named Stephen Levine who brought to us a way of attuning deeply to our bodies. He had many ways of doing this, many ways of truly loving and accepting ourselves, many ways of recognizing that personalities do things. And as Dr. Massey was showing us, we have family histories, DNAs that act almost like a filter through which we see the world, and we experience ourselves as less than, or frightened by things, or needing to do more than others because we don't believe that we're enough. We all have our something that we haven't fully accepted in ourselves unless we're walking fully awakened and enlightened consciously right now. And our bodies are brilliant at showing us when we are in tune with that state of love that is who we are, that inner state of stillness that is at the very source of who we are. Now, as a naturopath, I've done a lot of work with the oneness between the body, the gut, and the brain. And interestingly enough, Stephen brought to us a brilliant way of attuning to the body through the belly. He called it soft belly. And we can tell when we're not at peace with ourselves, when we're not in tune with ourselves, by many different levels of tightening in our belly. When our bellies are soft, our whole bodies release, and the connection between the belly, the heart, and the brain can come to peace. The war between the heart and the head that's been recently talked so much about with this eclipse coming up on Monday. This is an opportunity for us to tune deeply into the soft belly that we all had as little babies, and find that home of peace in our bellies that nurture our wholeness. So I'm going to take a moment now and invite you to do a little classic soft belly meditation. So if you'll join me, I invite you to either leave your eyes open or closed, and to become aware of how it feels to be sitting in the chair that you're in right now. Let your body come to the level of awareness, particularly in your belly. Not the level of naming, but the level of sensation. Be aware of the sensation. Your belly is an extraordinary diagnostic instrument. It displays the armoring of the heart as attention. So let yourself breathe in now. And as you breathe out, allow any tension or tightness to release, feeling your soft belly. Breathing in, soft belly. Breathing out, any tightness. Softening the belly is uncovering your heart. With each exhalation, let go of the pain that might be inside that softening belly. And allow compassion to enter yourself. In the Buddhist tradition, compassion means expansion. Expanding and letting go of the concept that we might be bad because we're tight. And just allow expansion to happen. And with that expansion is softening. Notice how good it feels to experience life in soft belly. If a judgment should arise, or an idea of how it's supposed to be, just let that judgment or thought float in soft belly. If fear arises, let it float in soft belly. Let everything float in soft belly. Let joy float in soft belly. Let gratefulness float in soft belly. Let spaciousness grow in soft belly. Even if hardness is discovered in the midst of the increasing softness, just watch it. Let it float through. Let hardness float in the softness. There's nothing to change. No urgency in soft belly. Peace is at the core of soft belly. Let the urgency float in the softness. Let any judgment that you might have of yourself float in soft belly. Let all that arises pass through the spaciousness of soft belly. So now I invite you, if your eyes are closed, to let them gently open. And as they open, notice at what point the tight belly or the soft belly begins to tighten again. It's it's part of the nature of having a human body that tightness returns. So tightness is nothing to judge. It just helps us to be aware of when we're at peace. And it's a constant offering to your heart that you can remind yourself of that peace within. And see if you can allow the softness to come back. For me, I can probably have to come back 100 times in 10 seconds sometimes to that soft, peaceful belly when I'm filled with judgments or fears about something. But part of the joy of being human is finding the compassion within our hearts first for ourselves. And as we begin to find that softening belly, that softening heart, that softening love, we can begin to share that with others. Allow the softness to be. Allow the hardness to be. And allow yourself to keep coming back to the softness whenever you're opening yourself to peace.